All right. So hello, my name is Aowen, and I am a lab venture educator at the Gulf of Maine Research Institute, and I use she, her pronouns. For our interview today, we're going to have the first bit is going to be a presentation, and Andrea is going to be talking about what she does. And then for the last half, it is going to be a question and answer. And so anytime throughout her presentation, if you get any questions or ideas that come to mind that you would like for her to better explain, please go ahead and add that to the chat, but we'll save all of the questions for the end. And without further ado, I am going to hand it on over to Andrea.
Awesome. Happy Tuesday, right? Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's great to be here and great to see everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so I can get started. Please let me know that you can see that. Yeah, you're good? Okay, awesome. So I'll go ahead and get started. So I am Andrea Williams, and this is the presentation for the Gulf Marine Research Institute. I am currently the Vice President of the National Association of Black Scuba Divers. I've been a member of NABS since 2009. I am a member of a group called AquaCorps since 2013 when I became a dive master, a dive professional. AquaCorps is essentially the safety arm of our association. We help to train our members, we help to keep them safe on our dive trips, and we do all sorts of other things too, lots of education and training that goes along. I'm a member of the Aquatic Voyager Scuba Club, which is based in New York City, although I live in Washington, D.C. right now. I am a diver, and I'll talk a bit more about this later if y'all have questions about it, but I'm a scientific diver for the Tuskegee Airmen Project. That is a project where we have been working to raise the wreck of Lieutenant Colonel Frank Moody. He is a Tuskegee Airman, was a Tuskegee Airman whose plane was crashed during a training exercise up in Michigan on Lake Huron. So I've been doing that for the last 2 summers, raising his wreck, and I don't remember if I put photos of that in this presentation, but yes. In addition to being on the board of NABS, I'm also a member of the board of the Women's Aquatic Network. I helped found the JEDI, the justice and diversity work that we do within our club. As I mentioned before, I am an instructor, and I am also a scuba instructor, and I also teach through DAN, which is a Divers Alert Network, where we teach first aid training for divers, and among other things. One of my passions with scuba diving is doing coral restoration work, and I'll talk a little about that later on as well. I am a team lead and was a beta tester for the certification that folks get through PADI, P-A-D-I. That was fun many moons ago. It was back in the early 2000s I did that. And then I passed recording secretary. I was Diver of the Year in 2019 for NABS, and then Diver of the Year for my dive club. And the most cool thing, which I'll talk about in just a few seconds, is I'm an honorary aquanaut through the Florida International University. Couldn't think of that. As an educator, I applied, and I, along with 4 other educators, were invited to participate in this program where, and I'll actually take this on now, so that you see what I got to do. So we were able to assist 2 PhD candidates who were doing research for a week. We got to work with them and help them do their research. What did we do? So first I'll tell you about that the yellow buoy here. That's the surface buoy for this structure, which is underwater. You can see that now. In the background, that big, you see my cursor over here. This is the actual base itself. This white structure is the gazebo, where you can come in, go in, it's air, you can take your gear off and mask off and actually breathe fresh air in this space. Inside this structure, you can actually go in and, I'm going to move this out of the way, go in and live and breathe. And I'll talk about that a little bit. Then that's another photo of it. This is me in the structure itself. You can see right now in this particular photo on the left, I'm actually giving a tour to some students that I think were in Peru, if I'm not mistaken. We did every day, we each took turns giving tours, students all over the world, and shared what the work we were working on. If you look behind where this says FIU right here, that's the entrance. That's the wet space back there. So you can see right here is where we come in. And hopefully I have another photo in here somewhere talking about that. But you come in there, there's the wet space, then there's a shower. We close that door. This is our workstation. Photo on the right is some of us, there's a tradition of having M&Ms underwater. This is late at night. Probably this is our first night that we slept in the, and we were so excited that we couldn't go to sleep. So we stayed up all night watching the fish outside the portal there and ate M&Ms. It was a lot of fun. As I was just, excuse me, describing, on the right here, this is that entrance I showed you previously. This is our group of educators coming in from our dive down into the reef base. And then you can see here some more, another view of where we stayed. That's the entrance. Again, there's a shower. That's a kitchen right here. And this is one of my favorite things here. This is Buzz Aldrin, the world famous astronaut. He has stayed in here. He has slept in the bunks there. And we all took turns. I slept in his bed one night, the bed that he slept in. So it's pretty cool stuff. But I got to sleep in the same room with Buzz Aldrin. So why diving? How did I get into this? Well, I'm from a family of divers. Everyone in my family, except for my mom, she's not a diver, but everyone else is. I got certified when I was in graduate school. I needed an hour to fill my schedule, and I was the last one to get certified, so I did it. I completed my open water in 2009, and I met a bunch of divers who were having a family weekend, and that's how I got connected to NABS. The Atlantic Rangers and the Underwater Adventure Seekers were the ones that I met. 2013, I became a dive master. You can see how my progression here. And right now I'm currently a PADI IDC staff instructor, and I love bringing folks into the world of scuba. This photo I have to mention real quick. I was in Egypt. It was an early morning. I was up at 6 a.m. for a photo shoot. The photographer is Samantha Brown. She's an amazing photographer, and she did that for me. And it's been used around a lot for a lot of different organizations using that photo. So it's kind of cool. But going back to my love of scuba diving, I love being underwater. I wanted to share that with as many people as I can. So as soon as you turn 8, you are allowed to participate in scuba diving. There's something called, PADI offers something called aqua missions and a PADI SEAL team. Then once you turn 10 and older, you can actually get certified as a junior open water diver. And I love seeing that light come on as an educator myself. I know when I've made a connection with the student because I see the light come on. That's what I'm looking for when I meet anyone that's interested in diving and get them certified and introduce them to the world, the underwater world. Just a quick shout out to the man on the second from my left. That's Dr. Jose Jones. He is the founder of NABS. He is a marine biologist and a retired professor. He founded NABS, and he also founded the Underwater Adventure Seekers. Next to my other right is Mr. Rick Powell. He is the co-founder of NABS. So this was my first year. This was 2013, working in the Aqua Corps, and I was being don't use the word hazed. I was being introduced into the group, and I had to dive with and lead and dive with our founders, make sure they were taken care of on the dive. So it was a pretty good experience, and I have this photo to prove it, to share with everyone. So a little bit of history of NABS. There are over 22 clubs. We have Aqua Corps, and I want to talk about some things I do as vice president. I meet with a team of the admin team, the executive board of NABS, and we review and update tasks. This is an international organization, so we do a lot of things around the world. One of the things is getting folks connected and getting clubs started. We have regional representatives, and that's from within the United States, and one in the international group. So different regions of the US and then the international group, we meet regularly to update, to learn what's going on with each of the clubs in the regions, and then find out how we can help and assist them. I help facilitate club memberships around the world and in the US. And we founded our first, I founded the Women's Dive Day with NABS. And the first person that we ever had was a surprise. I invited Shirley Lee. She was the first Black woman ever to be certified as a scuba diver in 1966. At that time, women were not allowed to do things on their own. So she had to have a note from her husband in order to get certified. Isn't that wild? Can't imagine that happening today, but pretty wild. And she was a lovely, lovely, shared her story about getting certified and why she is a retired swimming instructor and educator herself. So that was pretty amazing. Work on policy. Won't go into too heavy detail, but we help create standards for our organization and make sure that our organization is sound and we're around and standing for years to come. We also partnered with the U.S. Census, and I help facilitate that program as well. And I've been on several panels and facilitated discussions and moderated several with all these different groups, which has been a busy time for me since the pandemic. Actually, things just spawned and grown and grown and grown. And then I get to dive with our dive club, which is a lot of fun, meeting them where they are, going on trips with them. And that's been a great perk of being the vice president. Talk about our clubs real quick, just to let you see who they are, where they are. We have it's actually 22 clubs now, and then 2 more new clubs in addition to these. Our newest club is based out of Tampa, Florida, and they're called the Unicorns of Diving, and they're a fun club. They're really strong in their leadership and in their memberships. They're one of the new clubs, and they've already got 19 members, and that's pretty awesome. The Actor group is based in Pennsylvania, and it is actually a youth group. So the youngest person, I believe, is, I want to say 11 or 12, if I'm not mistaken, but that's pretty cool too. So a young kids group is a member of NABS. So I love this photo because this is what I do. I'm doing this here with you. This photo always inspires me. You look at the children in this classroom, and I'm doing a demonstration on scuba gear. This particular kindergarten class was actually studying coral reef systems. So I came in and talking about my experience with coral reefs. Then I talked about scuba diving in those reefs. And this is why I do this, because I know I touched someone. Look at their faces. Look at how excited they were and ready to learn. So I do talks like this all the time, all over the world virtually, and sometimes in person around the world. I've done presentations diving while black with BIMS and with B-Weems, National Geographic. I was interviewed for several projects. The most recent one you all are familiar with, Into the Depths. Tara Roberts is a National Geographic explorer, and she interviewed me for her project, and that's aired on Disney Channel and Nat Geo Channel. So hopefully check that out. Been on several presentations with Black Marine Science, and actually just last week was doing training with them for their BIMS Week 3, where we certified 4 open water students and 4 advanced open water students. So I was very busy doing some good work. And then I have ongoing conversations with Patty, the international group, the founding group, the certifying group that I am a member of, on talking about ways in which non-traditional folks can get involved with scuba and make the organization more reflective of who the members are. So was in Egypt. Hope this works. Can play. I'll just play this because kids always ask about sharks. I know everyone loves them. So here we go. This is a nurse shark. I think I was in Egypt. Just followed him around for a little bit. A lot of sharks, the nurse sharks. Nurse sharks tend to be animals that are more nocturnal. They sleep during the day, but if they hear sounds or see people, they will check them out, see what's going on. You'll find them mainly under ledges when they're resting, and they're beautiful creatures. A lot of folks describe nurse sharks as, oops, I changed it. Describe nurse sharks there's one resting there, as puppies. They're like underwater dogs. They're that gentle, but they are sharks. They do have teeth and they do bite. So no, I do not touch them, or nor have I ever tried to touch them, but they're amazing. Our dive guides did, because they know the reefs and they know the animals. So they pet them. And I think I have another one showing coming up here. Yep. This is in Belize. And at some point, I don't know if this is the one or not. You might see a shark. He has a little hook in his mouth, and I was so sad to see that. Actually won a photography contest That's kind of jumbled, I'm sorry. Photo contest with that. I took a photo of that shark as well with a hook in its mouth. But they're beautiful creatures. Oh, this wasn't believed. So this is the dive where the dive masters know the sharks. That's why they're all around him, following him. That's the dive master up front there. And they're just excited to see him. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? There are 6 or 7 of them just playing with him. I think at one point, one of the sharks actually comes and bumps me in the face. She just comes straight at me now. Hopefully that's coming up. See the hook in his mouth. Poor shark. Here it comes. It's gonna run right into me. That was so cool. But I'll stop that now. There's nothing more. All right, and the final, I went to the Maldives back in April, and this was on my very first dive. I wasn't even underwater for like 2 minutes, and mantas were coming over to me. So I got dubbed the the manta whisperer. She comes right up to me. Oh. Beautiful creatures. I think that's it on that one. Cool. All right. So other things that I've seen underwater, some stingrays, some eel. But I'll stop now because I want to make sure that I give you all a chance to ask questions. I thank you so much for allowing me to share a little bit of what I do, and I can talk more about my scientific diving with coral restoration, my diving with the Tuskegee Airmen Project, and also diving with the purpose, helping map wrecks around the world. So here's my contact information. You can see this photo here is me working in a coral nursery, actually hanging coral fragments on a tree. But yeah, I'll leave this up just for a minute bit. You can email me or call, text, and I'll be glad to chat with you if you have other questions. But thank you all so much. And Awen, I will give it back to you. Should I stop sharing or?
You can leave it up for a minute and then
Okay,
we'll
cool.
close it after everybody's gotten your stuff.
Yep.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
What is the hanging coral for? Do you like take it off later and plant it?
Absolutely. So this is actually a coral nursery in Tavernier, Florida for the Coral Restoration Foundation. So this is where they grow coral. So they take fragments from different reefs. They do study the genotypes, make sure it's all scientific. We hang coral based on those genotypes and then let them grow. You see how small the one right here is. So we'll hang them about that size and then they'll kind of grow to be about that big, if not bigger. So we're rehanging this tree and taking the coral off, fragging them out, and then taking them off and on another dive, we'll take them to a reef and outplant them on that reef. So it's a very studied and well planned out cycle, and we've done some amazing work. It's not done. I've been diving the Keys since the 90s, and it's kind of sad to see what I remember it looked like then and what it looks like now. Hurricanes and other storms have, damaged some of the reefs, but still we go back and try to make certain that we try to keep growing. You'll see that even this is technically a reef, this nursery, and all the life that comes on here. I found seahorses in there, fish come when we come and clean the trees to keep them clean. You can see a little white here. We've been cleaning them as well. There's some fire coral going right there. So we try to keep the trees clean, and when we do that, all kinds of organisms come out and feed on whatever it is we're scraping, all the algae that we're scraping off. It's a lot of fun, but it's very important work.
That sounds really cool.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The first question you were asked is, how long have you been working for? So I'm thinking that might have been, how long have you been diving?
So I've been diving since 1991. So it's just over 30 years, a long time, but a big fun long time.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so that Aquarius reef base you were looking at, we had a couple questions about that.
Sure.
One of the questions is, how do you keep air in there?
So it's pressurized. You know, when you get on an airplane and you can breathe air on the plane, same principle. So in that structure, we are able to pressurize it so that we can feel like we're 60 feet deep in that structure, but we pressurize it to make it feel as if we're on land. So that's what they do on planes as well. It's the same concept.
That's really cool. Okay. We've gotten a couple different questions about maybe the coolest fish you've ever seen, or maybe the scariest.
Wow, that's hard. Well, okay, so the scariest is there was a bull. I was in Turks and Caicos, and there was a bull shark that came and swam by our group, and this shark was huge and a little bit terrifying. So I didn't want to. We just sat still in the water and just watched him or her swim around and leave. So that would probably be the scariest. But sharks really aren't too terribly terrifying. They're beautiful creatures. The most beautiful, I'm going to always say, well, that's hard. Well, actually, so I've been diving all these years. And in 2017, I saw, since 91 to 2017, I saw for the first time a seahorse underwater. Saw one. Then after that, I started seeing them all the time. But this year, I was just in Curacao a couple of weeks ago, and for the first time ever, I found a seahorse. So that's probably my favorite thing now, seahorses, because I found one finally, found one on my own.
That sounds like that would be really cool.
Yeah, they're amazing creatures.
I love the way their little tails wrap around.
Yes, yeah. Oh, seahorses and nudibranchs. They're little sea slugs that are just amazing. They're cool. They're cool animals.
We actually had a question. Have you ever seen a sea bunny?
A sea bunny, I have not seen a sea bunny yet, but that's on my list of things to find. I hunt for stuff all the time.
Yeah. What about a leafy sea dragon?
Yes, I have seen those actually in the Philippines. I have photos of them. Darn, I wish I had my photos up right now. I can show you, I've taken photos of them as well. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Oh, have you ever seen a whale shark?
Yes, Maldives. I got to dive and snorkel with one, several actually, and in Cozumel as well. They're beautiful creatures. They're amazing. They're gentle giants is what they're called. I also got to dive with them when I was in Atlanta at the Georgia Aquarium. You can actually dive in their tanks now and dive with their mantas and whale sharks. Pretty amazing experience.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Is that the largest animal you've ever swam with?
Yes. I have heard, I would love to see, but I've heard whales underwater. I was in Maui and I kept hearing this noise. What is it? It was their whale songs. But I never saw them underwater. And that's one of my things. I would love to see a whale underwater. Heard them, but not seen them. So
did it sound like Dory from Finding Nemo?
Yeah, pretty. You hear that? Woo. Yep, that's what it is. It's a beautiful song. Beautiful song.
Have you ever seen a Greenland shark?
I have not seen a Greenland shark. One day on my list, I always look for different things whenever I dive. I try to find something new every time.
Do you ever see sea turtles?
Oh my gosh, yes. So just in Key Largo this past week, gosh, there were I wish I put that video up too. Saw an actual little baby, a juvenile, I should say, green turtle eating his lunch. His lunch happened to be a moon jellyfish. So he was eating that. I've seen loggerhead turtles. I've seen some as bigger, way bigger than me. I've seen a number of turtles while diving. So yes.
Oh, that would be so cool.
It's awesome just to sit there and just watch them. They're amazing creatures as well.
Yeah. So I've got a question a bit more about NABS and what are some of the specific efforts that y'all are doing and with other organizations to increase those opportunities of diving for underrepresented communities?
Sure. So yeah, so one of the things through AquaCorps and NABS, one of our goals is to make certain that we have an organization. So with that, we have to certify people. So we make sure students are certified. We partner with Diversity in Aquatics. It's another organization that's really about swimming and water sports. So we introduce swimming to our memberships, and then we try to get them into scuba diving as well. We partner with BIMS, we partner with PADI, we partner with NAUI, we partner with SSI. So a number of organizations that we partner with. Junior Scientists in the Sea, we partner with them at some point. Gosh, there are many. We work, we show at different dive shows. We'll be at Beneath the Sea this coming March, which is in New Jersey, the Meadowlands. We'll be we'll have a booth there. So we're trying to we always make connections with folks wherever we go. We're a welcoming and an open organization. We welcome everyone. And we're willing to partner with whomever, as long as it's about scuba diving and moving the sport forward in a positive light.
Excellent. Do you have any recommendations on what a student could do to support bringing others who may face barriers into diving?
Absolutely. Get them, find an adult that can help them get trained. Call me. I can make connections wherever you are. I know an instructor somewhere to help get you into scuba diving. There are several organizations that will help pay for your diving sometimes. It just depends. Like I was just with BIMS this week, and they paid for the students to get certified. They paid for their knowledge development piece. That was a huge chunk of what it costs to scuba dive. But there are organizations out there that will help sponsor. I know Junior Scientists in the Sea does that as well. It's a nonprofit organization. There are chapters all over the United States, and they help get students certified and help them think about careers related to scuba. This blue economy is growing fast, and we want representation at every level. So we want to make sure that our students are equally involved.
Excellent. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't actually heard of the Junior Scientists of the Sea, so I'm going to be looking that up.
JASIS, Junior Scientist in the Sea.
Yeah, I like
Mm-hmm.
that. Okay, so another question is that we got quite a few about sunken ships. What is the coolest thing you've seen on a sunken ship?
Wow, that's a lot. Oh my gosh. So the coolest thing, I was diving in Key West. There's a wreck called the Vandenberg, a ship that was purposely sunk, and it became an artificial reef. And on that dive, I was going down, I saw this big black blob until just off the wreck. The deeper I went, the closer I got to that blob, I realized that it wasn't just a blob. The blob was probably the size of a Volkswagen. So you know what the Volkswagens look like, how big they are. It was a Goliath grouper. Those are a Goliath grouper, a huge fish that big. Yes.
Oh,
so that was pretty awesome. That was on the next to the wreck. I've seen sharks on wrecks. I've seen all kinds of other animals. I've seen eel on wrecks. You name it. Most of the wrecks that I've seen have been intact, and they have pretty much created their own reef. While in Egypt, I got to dive the Thistlegorm wreck, which was a British ship that was sunk, I want to say in World War II. And within that wreck, there were Jeeps, there were motorcycles, there was gear, you name it, everything you can think of, rifles, guns, you name it, it was all there on the wreck. And I got to see that. So it was like a snapshot, a time capsule, if you will, underwater. And of course, there were other living organisms on it as well. But I've seen all types of wrecks. I've seen wrecks that have just been splayed, like the Hannibal wreck, which I helped map back in the mid-teens. So in the 2016, 17 era, we helped map that through the National Park Service and NOAA. We mapped this wreck through Diving with a Purpose. And that wreck was a steamship. The Hannah M. Bell was a steamship that ran aground in the Florida Keys, and it splayed out. It was a wooden ship, and it was a pretty cool ship, but it was very laid out. It's a beautiful wreck to see. And again, lots of life on it because it's now no longer around, but it's an artificial reef as well. So lots of cool
get to go in it? Oh, sorry.
On that one, the Hannibal, no, it's splayed out. So it's not intact anymore. So it's laid out, but I have penetrated other wrecks. I did go in the Thistlegorm. I did go in the Vandenberg. The Spiegel Grove is another one that's very popular. People have heard about. So yeah, I do penetrate them. I have been trained to do that. If I hadn't been trained, I would not go in.
Okay. Can you talk a bit more about like what scientific diving means?
Yeah, scientific diving means that I've been trained to do the training where it comes to mapping, like doing maritime archaeology, learning how to map, learning how to take measurements underwater, all the scientific stuff you need to taking notes, doing drawings underwater. And there are standards for each of those items that I just mentioned. I have to follow those to maintain my status as a scientific diver.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen a squid?
Yes, not a big one, just little itty bitty ones. I've seen squid and cuttlefish, but I've never seen a giant one. I've seen octopus. I've actually played hide and seek with octopus underwater. They're very smart creatures. I forget where I was. I want to say Maldives, if I'm not mistaken. I was videoing him, the octopus, along when he stopped and saw that I was watching him. So then he went down and he came back up and I did the same thing with him. We were playing hide and seek. It's pretty cool.
Oh,
Octopus are
that's
really
my
smart.
dream. That is my dream. Octopus are my favorite animals, so I want to scuba dive
Oh,
one day and see an octopus.
they're fun. They're amazing.
All right, I've got a bit of a sad question. Have you ever seen an animal eating plastic?
No, but I've seen animals that have had it on the water, and we've worked to remove the fishing line or whatever it is off of the animal. I've not, thank God, I've never seen an animal eating plastic. So good
Good.
question, but no, I've not seen that. I did find on this last trip there were some fishing lines, so I was pulling it in and pulling in like 5 minutes. I'm really in all this fishing line, and at the end of it was a fishing rod. So someone had lost their fishing rod in the ocean. Yeah, I think the person got mad because they couldn't catch the fish. So they, but anyway, I took that out because it could have been very dangerous for any animal to get
Yeah.
caught up in that.
Glad you got it out.
Yes, me too.
Have you ever seen a sunfish?
I have never seen a mola mola, not yet. That's on my list of things to see. And I've been all over Asia diving and I have never seen one. So yeah, that's on my list of things to see too.
Have you been diving in Maine before?
I have not been to Maine. Farthest north I've been is diving is up in New York.
Okay, cool. I've heard it's pretty cold diving up here.
It is dry suit weather. That's dry suit diving. Yeah, do not get wet with that one. Cool waters.
Have you ever seen an animal eating another animal or hunting?
Yep, cool story. So I watched him, I followed a moray eel around one day and I didn't know that he was hunting for lunch. So the eel's swimming around, he's going into different little holes and looking in. Then all of a sudden I see him come out of one hole with a little crab and he's crunching and eating, and that's pretty cool. So that's a pretty sight to see, watching them hunt and then eat. When I get up in the morning, I go to Belize often, and I get up in the morning, I'll walk out to the beach or to the dock outside of the hotel where I stay, and you'll see the stingrays hunting for conch. And so you'll watch them and they'll catch them and eat them for breakfast, which is kind of cool to watch as well.
Okay, that would be really cool to watch.
Mhm.
What is the deepest you've ever dived?
Well, let's see. So deepest I've ever gone was in the blue hole in Belize. And I think my depth was 147 feet. I was there for maybe 2 minutes, got there, looked around, and then began my ascent back up. So yeah, 147.
That is pretty deep. Is your gear heavy to carry?
On land, it is. Underwater, I'm virtually weightless. You see in this photo here that I'm neutrally buoyant. That means I'm not positive or negative, but I'm at zero and I can just hang in the water right there. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not holding on to anything. I'm just hanging in the water. So my gear doesn't feel like anything when I'm like that.
Okay, that's cool. Do you like to swim just like in general?
I do. I love it. That's how I stay in shape. So 3 days a week, I'll go to my local pool and swim laps. And then I'll swim laps with my fins and my mask on just to stay strong. Then I'll also do, I'll try to swim the full length of a pool underwater on one breath. And I've done that a couple times, still just to stay in shape. So yeah, I love swimming.
That's
Yep.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Do you always have a camera with you when you dive?
I try. So when I'm teaching, I do not, because by PADI standards, I'm not supposed to have a camera with me because I'm supposed to be watching my students. When I'm not teaching, of course, I always have a student or I have a camera with me all the time. Lots of photos, tens upon thousands.
Okay. Does diving ever hurt?
Diving can hurt when you're doing your descent and you don't equalize properly. So if you know when you're on the plane and you get in, your ears start to feel a little weird, you got to swallow. Same thing happens when you do a descent. If you don't do it properly, you can hurt your ears. That's when you go back up a little bit and try to equalize and try to keep, but that's really the only time diving can hurt. You might get a cramp sometimes, but you learn how to stretch your legs or your arm, wherever you have your cramp, stretch that out. But diving isn't necessarily a painful sport. It's nice, slow, and easy. Very easy.
Excellent. What is the coolest place you've ever been?
Wow, that's hard to pick. Um, Coolest place I've ever been. Gonna say the Maldives. Because of the mantas, because of the stingrays, because of the sharks. Maldives tops.
Maldives?
Yeah.
Okay. And would you say that's the coolest thing you've seen in general, is the critters you've seen there?
Pretty much, yeah, that was my favorite because I saw everything, anything and everything every day. So it was like 4 or 5 dives a day and I saw everything. So it was pretty
Wow.
cool. Yeah. And the
Is
water
there,
was nice and blue.
oh, is
Yeah.
there any other place that you haven't been that you really want to go?
Yes, I have not been to, well, 2 places actually. I haven't been to Antarctica. I want to do some ice diving down there. And then I haven't been to Australia and I haven't dived the Great Barrier Reef. So those are 2 places on Earth that I need to get to.
See, and I've scubaed in the Great Barrier Reef, but I didn't get to dive, sadly, because I'm not certified.
Oh man,
That's my goal as well, is to scuba
but
dive.
we'll have to fix that.
Yeah, that's my
Mhm.
dream. I didn't know you could dive in Antarctica. How do you have gear to keep you warm enough that you can safely do that?
Absolutely. So I mentioned dry suit before. So wearing a dry suit means that you're diving without getting your body wet. So your hands, your feet, your everything's covered. Your face will get wet, but you can put on some covering to help protect it, keep it a little bit warm. But yeah, you put on a dry suit and you dive in the water just like you would dive with the wetsuit, but you have on a dry suit to keep you warm. It's a little different setup when it comes to, there's an extra hose that connects from your regulator to the dry suit itself to help put air in it. And that actually helps keep you a little bit warm. But underneath your dry suit, you wear thermal underwear. You have on socks, you have on shoes, you have on everything to keep you dry and warm underwater.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever want to go diving in Greenland?
Yes, anytime. Iceland, Greenland, anywhere up there, would love to make it happen.
Yeah, that sounds like it'd be pretty cool. Okay, so the last questions we always ask is, first, what is your favorite part about your job?
A favorite, there are 2 things. One, I love the ocean. I love being underwater. I tell folks it's my place where I have my most peaceful time. I love that. Second thing I love about my job is that I get to introduce folks to scuba diving, my passion for it, and hopefully feed that to them, and it becomes their passion as well. So I love seeing that folks taking off and just doing great things when it comes to scuba diving. Whatever realm they work in, they still find a way to connect it to their jobs, their lives. That's pretty powerful for me.
That sounds pretty great. Yeah.
Yes.
And the last one is, what are you most excited about in your field in general?
Uh, the most exciting thing right now is that people are joining scuba diving in great numbers. So they're getting to see what I see when I get underwater. That's exciting for me. And people are starting to look at ways to make scuba part of their careers. And that's exciting for me too. So I love that. I love that the next generation is taking up the mantle of helping care for our oceans, making sure that we have oceans to dive in years to come.
Excellent. I think I'm also pretty excited about that, and I'm not in your field.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. And the fact that we're also just making discoveries still to this day. We don't know everything about what's underwater. And the fact that I worked with DWP, Diving with a Purpose, and they're actually in the African American Museum, part of the Smithsonian. And one of our groups dived and found mantles off the San Jose, the wreck, and brought them and put them in the museum. So that's a very important piece, that connection of we're still finding parts of history. Me working with the Tuskegee Airmen Project and helping raise Lieutenant Colonel Frank Moody's plane, that's history. So Dr. Brian Smith, who is the CEO and president of the Tuskegee Airmen Museum in Detroit, Michigan, and Wayne Lusardi, who's with the Michigan Marine Park, they're working together on that project to bring up that airplane, put it back together and house it in that museum. So that's so history, we're bringing it back and sharing it with others. So that's pretty cool too.
Wow,
Mhm.
that is really cool.
Mhm.
Okay, so it looks like we are close on time, so I'm gonna stop the recording so that
Okay.
everyone can unmute and wave at you themselves.
I'll stop sharing so I can see everybody.